Welcome to the North Irish city of Belfast. Directly behind me is the SS Nomadic, a tender ship serving the RMS Titanic in Cherbourg, France. Today, I will be flying back to London the easy way. The RMS Titanic is one of the most famous ships of all time due to the tragic events that took place in April of 1912. I do not know of a single person who does not know of its existence or the story behind it. However, the majority of people do not know the backstory, such as where the ship was constructed. Belfast is the capital and largest city of Northern Ireland, located on the River Langan. With a population of 350,000 people, the city was also an industrial powerhouse, with well over 1,700 vessels being built here at the Harland and Wolff shipyards. A few notable examples of ships being built here are the RMS Olympic, RMS Adriatic, SS Baltic, and of course the RMS Titanic and SS Nomadic, which is the only White Star Line vessel still in existence. Unfortunately, Harland and Wolff no longer build vessels, however they do repair them, so business is still thriving. One notable attraction here in Belfast is the Titanic Museum, which sits directly next to where Titanic, Olympic and Britannic's construction site, and the building where the plans for the Titanic were drawn, which has since been converted into a hotel. Getting to the airport from the museum, you have only 3 options, but only one of which is really practical, that being driving. The Uber ride to and from the museum only cost me £7.50, or around 15 Australian dollars, which I thought was reasonable. Located nearly 3 kilometres to the northwest of the SS Nomadic, George Best Belfast City Airport is the smaller and more centrally located of the 2 airports serving the city. From here you can fly up to 48 destinations across the UK and Europe on 6 different airlines. The EasyJet check-in counters can be found at the far end of the building on the right-hand side, adjacent to British Airways. Check-in this afternoon was very quick and very easy, as I was one of the very few checking in this late. Once I received my boarding pass, I was quickly ushered to security, as boarding was just over 30 minutes away. Security is located to the left after leaving the check-in counters, with the departures being written in bold letters next to Cafe Nero, which, side rant, is the best cafe in the UK. Security today was very quick and painless. However, I did get stopped and was subject to additional screening, so I presume it was just random. Post-security and up the stairs is the usual duty-free shopping with high-end luxury items such as perfumes, watches, alcohol and chocolates. Unfortunately, you are initially forced into it. However, approximately halfway through, a bypass service is offered. Personally, I think it's a rather strange design, and it's not something that I've seen before. I'm not sure if this is something offered at other airports in Europe or the UK, but I certainly haven't seen it before. The departures hall has a very clever design, with the gates being on the ground floor, whilst the restaurants, cafes, bars, and the majority of seating areas are located on level 1. This maximizes the amount of spending each individual passenger spends before the flight. After arriving at the bar and ordering a half pint of cider, so did that of today's aircraft, which today is an Airbus A320-200, registered as Golf Echo Zulu Papa Bravo. Construction of this airframe was completed at Airbus's final assembly line in Hamburg, Germany, in February of 2016, making this aircraft just over 9 years old. Once the aircraft pulled onto the stand, and after I had finished my drink, the pre-boarding call was announced, and I made my way down to Gate 5 in preparation for boarding. I feel like I need to point out that this airport does not have any jet bridges, so all passengers must board the aircraft by air stairs, which is great for avgeeks like me, but maybe not so much for passengers with mobility issues. EasyJet's A320s have two different configurations, depending on the aircraft's age. This particular aircraft is fitted with 180 standard economy class seats in a 3-3 layout. This afternoon I shall be seated in 5 Alpha on the port side or left-hand side of the aircraft. EasyJet has opted for the Recaro SL3510 slimline seat, which features 29 inches or 74 centimeters of pitch and 17.7 inches or 45 centimeters of width. There is a standard tray table that folds down and extends. In the seat pocket, you'll find a safety card and an in-flight magazine. Above are individual reading lights, air vents, and 2 flight attendant call buttons.
Cabin crew, please arm your doors for departure.
Please put your electronic devices in flight mode now so that you can use them throughout the flight. In an emergency, please bags on board.
Soon we commenced our pushback from Gate 5, 4 minutes ahead of our scheduled departure time.
Pull the loose end to adjust and unfasten by lifting the top of to adjust. Put on your own mask before helping others. If we land to water, take a life jacket from under your seats. Remove it from the pouch and put it over your head. Pass the tape.
We taxied to runway 22 via Alpha, Alpha 1 and runway 04. Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff. Once airborne, we made a sharp left-hand turn away from Belfast to set a southeasterly course for London.
If you're hungry,
Flight time today is 1 hour and 15 minutes, covering a distance of 450 miles or 724 kilometers, cruising at 33,000 feet. After takeoff and during our initial left-hand turn, down below was the eastern suburbs of Belfast, but in the distance was the large city of Bangor, which, interestingly, is also the richest city in all of Northern Ireland. Less than 5 minutes later, down below was the small village of Portavogie, which also happens to be the easternmost point of not only Northern Ireland, but the entire island itself. Whilst the cabin crew were conducting the in-flight service, we passed over the Isle of Man, which interestingly is also another region of the world where my family comes from. Inside the EasyJet magazine is not only a vast duty-free selection, but also a buy-on-board menu similar to Jetstar, with a selection of different food items to choose. EasyJet also offers onboard Wi-Fi on all of their flights. However, it's not internet-based and only provides access to a closed-loop system with digital content like flight maps, onboard menus, and games. Unfortunately, I never seemed to be able to get it to work, and therefore I was unable to buy anything off the menu, as they do not accept cash on board. On board the aircraft are 3 bathrooms, 1 at the front and 2 at the rear. Inside is everything you would typically come to expect for this aircraft type and duration of flight, including foaming hand soap and the EasyJet orange being painted basically everywhere. Just prior to descent, in the distance was the United Kingdom's 4th largest city and the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution and 2 famous football clubs, that being Manchester. Soon we commenced our descent into Gatwick. For some unknown reason, several flights on approach into Gatwick, ours included, had to enter a holding pattern over the Wayfield DME. The primary use of a holding pattern is to delay aircraft that have arrived at their destination but cannot land yet because of either traffic congestion, poor weather, runway unavailability, or even for emergency fuel dumping procedures. More often than not, most holding patterns occur over specific waypoints, such as DMEs or VORs. I suspect on today's arrival it was due to a runway change, however, I could be wrong. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied to the North Terminal via Delta, runway 07 left, Quebec and Quebec Bravo. We pulled into gate 55, 6 minutes ahead of our scheduled arrival time. Stepping off the aircraft, I gave my thanks to the fantastic EasyJet crew before turning my attention towards getting back to London. Before I give my final thoughts on this flight, I need to mention one key fact about this airport that I just arrived at. Gatwick Airport is 41 kilometers south of London, meaning a fairly lengthy train ride or drive from the airport to the city is required. Now back to EasyJet. What are my thoughts? Well, as always, let's start from the beginning. Check-in at Belfast was very quick, kind and efficient. I do like that EasyJet also prints good quality boarding passes, which serves as mementos for later. Security was also equally quick and easy. Even though I was searched for traces of explosives, the whole process could not have been better. On board, the seat was... it was alright. It certainly reflects EasyJet's low-cost carrier service. The seat could be best described as comfy enough for a 2-hour flight, but any longer and I would have been in pain. I can't really comment on the food, because I didn't try it. However, from the reviews I've read online, it seems to be a hit or a miss. Whether that's the case, I guess I won't really know until I fly with EasyJet again. And lastly, the crew were very friendly and chatty, which I find is a great thing to see on board flights. But on the other hand, I feel this could be the downfall for EasyJet, as if the chatting becomes too out of hand or too loud, the crew could be distracted from their duties. So, would I recommend you to fly with EasyJet? Well, in Europe, there are 3 low-cost carriers, generally speaking, Wizz Air, Ryanair and EasyJet, 2 of which I have flown on. Now, I can't comment on Wizz Air, however in saying that, Ryanair and EasyJet are basically the same. However, EasyJet was much easier to book, as it can be done on their website. Ryanair, however, was a much more difficult time, which I will explain in that video. So yeah, I would recommend EasyJet. They have great prices and fly regularly, and are generally a great airline, comparable to Jetstar in almost every way. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment and subscribe, and make sure you check out my other videos if you want to see more. And I have said this before, but I now have a Discord server. Feel free to join, the link can be found at the top of the description. And as always, feel free to press the notification button too, as it will let you know whenever I upload again, which happens every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time. And I hope to see you all again in the next one. See you later!